Hello, everybody. Welcome to our MSL Capita Clinic. And if you haven't joined us before, we are MSL Capita, and we're here for you guys, right? You guys are coaches, athletic directors, admin, leaders in that position, and we're really trying to focus on upskilling you guys. So if you haven't joined us, welcome. If you have, welcome back. And thinking about today, I'm going to kind of ask you to put your title, your coach and your sport into the chat. So as we kind of get acclimated and everybody's kind of getting settled in, let's get to know where everybody's from. So what sport do you coach? Where are you from? And share those in the chat. Awesome. Some from Chicago, some from Illinois, other ones, Colorado, California. Excellent. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. Volleyball, swimming, soccer. All right, eclectic group today. So as we get moving, again, our clinic today is the importance of habit forming and a systems-based approach to player development. So let's get started and let's think about what we want out of this, right? That's a lot of big words, but also we have some kind of set programs and goals that we want to get out of it. So today we're going to come away with good habit forming and systems-based approaches to player development and understanding what that really means, understanding the difference between goal setting and habit forming, developing new habits and to replace the ones that aren't serving us, as well as an actionable plan for your next practice. So we have a lot to get to. We have, quick amount of time. So let's get into it. As we get started, I want you to make sure that you guys have some sort of notebook paper or you're ready to kind of put in the chat. So thinking about habits, right? We look at this idea as the mosaic effect, right? All these pieces, each day is a contribution to the mosaic, right, of our lives. Our life is not just one moment where our promotion, but it's instead each day a drop or a contribution towards the bigger picture or our identity. And so thinking about using these small series of pictures to create our identity, we have to think about how we're doing this athletically, how we're doing this as a coach, right? What does that look like in terms of that? So a series of small habits that attribute to like one larger system. So we're creating this identity, we're creating this team culture about what we want our identity to be, what we want our individual athletes' identity to be. We do this a lot, right? We do this so often. And we think about, we engage in bad habits, right? So let's say, for example, for some of those in swimming, right? Many swimmers will glide into the finish during a long set. In tennis, some players won't go hard for a wide ball because it requires extra effort, knowing they're not even going to get there. In baseball, a lot of hitters won't run out their ground balls. So thinking about what habits we're setting ourselves up for, because when we repeat a bad habit, we're reinforcing that habit. We're recreating that system, and we want to focus on our current self to make sure our future self is set up for success. So thinking about how this all relays into this mosaic effect, even if it's just one day, those tend to spiral, those tend to cycle in a negative way, right? We always talk about that 1% better, because if we don't get 1% better, we're on that 1% decline and we're not getting better. And it's exponential when it comes to improvement of ourselves, our athletic ability, and ourselves as a coach. Thinking about the same idea there is those habits, they don't equal goals, right? They don't equate to them, but when we have a habit and a system, that will lead to our goals and that greater good. What is that goal? What is that kind of identity that we're looking for, right? What habits do we need to get there? And how can we create that and identify those habits to create that system that's going to lead to those larger picture goals, whether it be a championship, whether it be, more athlete retention for the next year? How do we build up and how do we market ourselves as a program a little bit better? What are those systems that we're leveraging to make sure that we meet our goals? And that kind of goes into this next element, right? What is an identity that we want our athletes to have? So put that in the chat. Resilience, yeah, leadership. Feeling body positivity. Yeah, all these are great examples, right? It's nothing that there's no wrong identity that we want them to have, right? It's something that we're trying to promote as a coach to make sure that we know what our role is, right? Our identity is not just to have a championship team. Our identity is not just to win, right? What do we want from our student athletes to get if they win, right? They know what it takes to succeed. They know what it takes, the drive, the dedication, the perseverance, the resilience, those leadership mentalities, what it takes to win. So all those kind of skills help build that identity, help build that kind of mindset for a successful player or athlete as part of a team. So why and what will this do for you as a coach? Is if we try to create these identities for our student athletes, and this is going to be a rhetorical question, but why do we do this, right? If we were to look for a leadership opportunity, if we were to look for, these elements of resilience, why is this going to help you as a coach? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward. What is this going to do for our team? So the more we focus on that identity piece, right? The more we focus on the habits and how do we build that system of habits in order to create this identity. So this is the habit loop, right? We have the cue, the routine, and the reward. So a lot of this goes into play when it comes to building a new habit and forming our own kind of judgments and our own efficiencies. So you think about what that cue is. What's that trigger? Right? What's the routine beyond that trigger? So what behavior that follows that routine or that cue, sorry. And then what is that reward afterwards? So thinking about a huddle, right? You get into a team huddle, that's our cue. Our athletes are getting water, they're rehydrating. And that reward after that is, it's so easy that they get water because they're tired. Now they feel rehydrated, rested, and they're ready to perform again. So it's just something simple like that. That is a habit. We create the same types of habits the same way, but it's how do we replace those bad habits that aren't serving us, right? We swap in those replacements. We usually start with replacing that routine, which leads to a different reward. So then we have to figure out what that cue is. So in the chat, real quick, what part of this do we focus more on and what part do we usually miss? Yeah, absolutely. We always focus on the routine, right? Yeah, rewarding is one of the hardest things. So thinking about what people are kind of responding with is, it's hard to always reward because we don't want to say, you get a cookie, you get a participation trophy for every little thing, right? It doesn't even have to be that way, right? It's those intrinsic rewards. What is going to help motivate them? And just like we use this, huddle example, it's just being rehydrated, rested, ready to perform again. You get a break. That is kind of a reward in itself, right? You tried and you put your effort in there, you showed that vulnerability, now you're moving on. I love it. So let's think about this. What habits, or what are the habits that make you a successful coach? So put that in the chat. Accountability and consistency. Yeah, your dedication, your drive, your enjoyment, yeah, passion. I love it. And these are words that you see come up all the time, right? Coaches are some of the most selfless people out there, right? They're the ones that are putting themselves out there. They're vulnerable. They're doing this out of the kindness of their heart, knowing that they're affecting this next generation of student athletes, knowing that they're bettering themselves beyond just a sport or just being athletically talented. It's something beyond that, and there's so much more to it than just this, right? And so knowing what habits make you successful are going to then be rubbing off on your student athletes. They're going to realize, oh, look at what they're modeling. So if we're modeling these habits, we're modeling some of these things, they're going to pick up on those and they're going to start redoing them as well. And they're going to redefine them for what that means to them. So as we move forward, we need to think about what systems are supporting us, right? We're going to find more success by focusing on these systems instead of just goals. So I'm not saying goals are a bad thing to have. Goals are always necessary. It is that end goal. It is that outcome that we really want to get to, but we also need to focus on that process, right? Because goals are empty without the system to support them. So when we're working toward a goal, we're just essentially saying that I'm not good enough yet, but I will be when I reach my goal. The problem with that mindset is that you're teaching yourself to always put happiness and success off until the next milestone is achieved. And so like, once I achieve my goal, I'll be happier. Once I achieve my goal, I'll be successful. But that's not always the case. So we need to commit to that process and not a goal. And so understanding what the process is and committing to it rather than saying, okay, I have this tangible thing and I have no idea what to do to get there. Right. I'm running a marathon. I have to train for it, and I don't know what I need to do to actually run a marathon. What does my training look like? What is the system I do to set up for it? So when we look at that relationship between the systems and the goals, it's very different. We want to make sure that we kind of explain the difference, because it's not just something that's tangible and it's just systems can lead to goals, but goals are all created by the habits and systems that help form them. So we think about, if we're a coach, our goal is to win a championship. The system is what our team does every day at practice to get there. It's all linear, and we have to make sure that we understand what that concept is. Otherwise, we're not going to understand that process. We're not going to understand where we're finding success and what that looks like. So as we kind of build that system, right, we need to create those habits and systems that help change that. So these modifiers make the habits and goals concrete. They're easy to grasp and they're clearly designed and self-accountable. So as we create our habits and our systems, they're working congruently and together to form our goals, right? But then we have to make sure that our goals are easy to understand and adaptable and attainable and relevant and time-based. So we have to have a certain time frame. We have to have an idea of what we need to do to get there. So I'm going to give you a challenge. Real quick, I want you to untie your shoe. So after you've untied your shoe, I want you to try tying it in a different way, not just in a double knot, and just to kind of see what other ways do you know how to tie a shoe. So here's where it kind of comes up. Was it harder or easier? So put that in the chat real quick. Harder, yeah. A lot of you are saying harder. Yeah, we've become so used to tying our shoe a specific way. And so we've created this neural pathway, this efficiency in our brain to make it a habit. And we realize that 40% of our daily actions are behaviors that are habitual. So it's really hard to break that. And so thinking about what we've done in the past, we're just continue to reiterate some of these habits that we've strived to become so efficient at. But if I change the one thing, or if I move my shoes to a different location, or change the place where I put my keys by the door, that's going to change the whole cue, the routine, and the reward system. So if we change and manipulate one of those elements, part of that habit loop, we're going to really have to start thinking about it in a different light. It can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days per person to form a new habit. So it's not just going to come overnight or just practicing it once. We have to try it every single day for as long as it takes to get something in an action to be automatic. And so we have to think about what we're doing and be conscious about the way that we're changing the shape, really, in the formulations of our brain, to make sure that they're creating these efficiencies and they're creating new habits. And why? Is it going to be something that's better or more impactful to our student athletes? And does it help promote that identity that we looked for before? And this is all about this behavior model, right? If we want to create a new habit, we have to make these conditions easier and the environment easier for them to succeed. So it's not just something that we're just trying to do just because of it. We have to try to make it as easy as possible. So, it's something that we have to do at least once a day, something that usually takes less than 30 seconds, and it requires a little effort. So it's these tiny habits that lead to larger habits, leads to larger systems, and then eventually our goals. So try to eliminate and try to think about what triggers we have to focus on in order to achieve our goal. So in the same vein of that, think of a goal that you want to achieve this season. So write in the chat when you think of a goal that you want to achieve this season. I'll give you about a minute or so. Everybody mastering some stroke techniques for swimming. more turnout for tryouts. A little more leadership capacity. All great answers so far. I love this. I'm just watching the chat. This is awesome. So thinking about these goals, right? We have now this goal. We have the equal sign in our equation. So let's break it down into the systems and the habits that we want to formulate for them. So my goal for this year, I have to run my first half marathon in under 2 hours. That's a lofty goal. My first part of my system is registering for the race, getting the right shoes and gear, making sure that I find a training plan that works for, my schedule within work, within, being a dad as well. And then training, right? And changing my diet. So it's not just something that's easy. There's a lot of big habits that I need to change in order to find success. So thinking about what your goal is that you just wrote down, and now let's break those down into your top 3 systems. So in the chat, put the 3 things that you're going to start doing to achieve your goal. Think about what you have, right? What elements that you already have to create your new, or reach your new goal, sorry. Yeah, use athletes to market, social media. I even had an experience with, some of the athletes on the team using their, Instagram reels and Snapchat stories to like help market tryouts. And it was so successful and it was so fun because I'm not one to always go on social media to be like, oh yeah, that's the next tryout I have to go to. But that's where kids are at. And that's where these student athletes want to be. And they're seeing this and they see their friends doing it. So it's something that it helps motivate them to want to be together, right? Because that's the point of a team, is to share these kind of challenges with your friends. Yeah, practice these strokes every single day. So thinking about what goals you have, what systems that can lead to those, and breaking it down, it's almost that reverse engineering piece. And as we move forward today, I want you to always have this idea in the back of your head. What is it going to do to help improve the identity or help establish that identity that I really want to cultivate in my student athletes? So what new habit or system do you want to create in your practice routine? So this is kind of coming from the large scale systems, right? In this whole big, larger mosaic to this new identity, to this daily routine, right? I'm going to ask you a series of questions and I want you to put those responses in the chat. So as we kind of look through it, is what habits will you have to create to achieve this goal? So if there's a new habit or a new system that you want to create in your practice routine, what is it? And then what habits will you have to create to achieve the goal? All right, now what systems are already in place that you'll be able to leverage? Yeah, keep the answers coming. I love it. And what can you do to make it easier for your team to build these tasks into habits? And the last one is, how does this new system help build your athlete's identity? And when we create a new habit, we're changing the identity of who we are. It's challenging to create this new anchor, to create this new cue, to create this new routine and this new reward system. But that's the point, right? It's changing our behavior model. It's changing the way that we react to certain stimuli. And if we go through some of these elements, these questions, and ask ourselves, why, it kind of gives us that idea of what the intention is and why we do the things that we're doing and what habits are we building for and what is this cultivating for our team and our culture and our identities ourselves, but also for the team again. And so kind of in this same review, this whole idea is we need to create those good habit forming systems to enhance player development, right? Understanding the difference between goal setting and habit building, we did that. And we talked about developing a new habit to replace the ones that aren't serving us. And then we just came up with an actual plan for our next practice. It's the hard part now is putting this back on yourself, your athletes, and your team, right? It's not, the work isn't done. So now that you have, some tangible action steps, what are we going to do with them? So I challenge you for the next practice, look for some of these elements, look for some of these things that you do want to change. What is it? Somebody not finishing, their sprints? Is it somebody that's, kind of dogging in the last leg of their routine? So what does it look like, and how do you want to change that? What is that cue for them? What is that cue that you can change, and how can you easily manage that to continue breaking that habit? One of the quick things kind of stemming from this work is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, comes up with this wonderful quote, is we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And I think that's so poignant for what we've talked about today, and thinking about, we have the same goals. Winners and losers often have the same goals, but very different outcomes. So we know that goals are important, but what we do in between those is what really makes us change, what really makes us the difference makers, and really what makes us the winners of, the championship team. So I want to thank you guys for joining. Please take our quick survey. I'll put the survey link in the chat, but you can also use a QR code. But again, we are MSL Capita, and the more that you help us with some of the survey responses, it helps us get prepared for our next situation, our next kind of our work with you guys, and it keeps us relevant. So again, if you want to join one of our clinics coming up, we have one in September, October, November, and December throughout the rest of the year. And just please sign up on our website. If you want to reach out to me, again, my name is Davis Turner. I'm the VP of Strategic Programs here at MSL Capita, and you can reach us at mslcapita@mindspark.org. So thank you guys, and looking forward to jumping in September.